Hey everybody, Matt Lawton here with the Astrological Winds channel and the weekly astrological weather forecast for the week of March 16th through the 22nd of 2020. And one of the first things I want to mention is transits, which are what I'm basically describing the energy of each week. Those are the relationships of the planets to one another, the aspects that they're making. The time that they're making that aspect is the transit of that aspect, the time. So the point I want to make with this is that every week we have different transits going on, different aspects, and the transits of those aspects going on. And they tell a story. They tell a story that continues usually. And it's not just one story, it's a story that may be operating in your life on several levels and operating on Earth on several levels. And it creates a complex web and chain of events and things that happen based on choices we make relating to those energies. But as one transit, 1 week or 1 month ends or 1 year, usually what we'll see is a development of the stories that are going on in our lives and in society. So it's as if one transit or aspect is showing part of the story, and then as the story develops, the next transit or aspects kind of develop with that story, or as part of that, the story develops in relation to the energy of the next aspects going on. So one of the things I mentioned this month in the monthly forecast for March, one of the biggest events of the month, I said, was Chiron in Aries now, and it was squaring the nodal axis, the North Node in Cancer, the South Node in Capricorn. And I think this is a perfect example of of a story that's going on right now. I've mentioned before that I really think these years of Chiron in Aries, which just started a year or so ago, it's all about being more self-responsible for our own wounds and our own healing of those wounds, and to learn what we need to learn in order to do that. And then ultimately we can become a teacher for others if we can master our lessons from our own wounds. But when Chiron squared the nodes, it was really clear to me the story it was telling in relation to the coronavirus spreading through the world. The South Node's in Capricorn, and the South Node is all the things we've done well before, and the nodes have a lot to do with groups and collectives too. So, Capricorn is like the structures we built as a society together. And those structures, when they're most successful, have the opportunity to adjust and look ahead as to what may be needed in the future, and take the opportunity while the success is there, while it's easy to make changes because the system is running well and there's a lot of benefits coming in, then to look into the future and try to plan for the future. And I think in the case of what we see going on with the coronavirus right now, society in the United States was doing well economically for the last 10 years about now, getting close to, and there was this push for a more encompassing public healthcare system where where everyone would get taken care of at least on some basic level. And that was even started in the last presidential administration through the Affordable Care Act to start moving us towards that. But then the next administration came in and they had a different agenda and gutted a lot of that. And I think when you think about the North Node in Cancer, Cancer is about everybody's basic needs being taken care of. And the North Node is, this is the destiny or the road you were called upon to follow. We chose not to follow it in the United States. Instead, we tried to hold on to the South Node structure we had already built, despite it showing breakdowns and cracks in its foundation, that it was not going to work or last forever like that. And there were a lot of reasons why. The number one being that the healthcare costs were so expensive in the United States based on that hierarchical structure that many people could not afford to even go to see a doctor. So now we have this virus come in, and this is Chiron and Aries shooting the arrow, like boom. I'm going to wound you and show you where you failed, where you had the opportunity to make your system better and you chose not to. So now all these people, society, North Node, society, collective, group together, who need nurturing, Cancer, basic health needs, are threatening the very structure of the Capricorn South Node society we built. That's how astrology can work as one example of that energy. And now, how's that working in your personal life right now? How is that need to be self-responsible for your own healing? Well, now it's being forced upon all of us, right? We're being told we need to self-quarantine. We need to isolate ourselves socially. So now we don't have the option anymore, do we? So this is how this energy can set up and manifest. And we see it on a collective level. Apply that to ourselves on a personal level. Think about the structures you have built into your life that maybe have shown that they need some kind of improvement, or they ultimately could end up hurting you. And when you need basic needs met, you may find out that it can be very challenging, and you may find yourself very isolated in your situation. And like I've said about Chiron and Aries, Chiron is sitting here saying, need to be self-responsible. And you have to remember too, the whole Chiron is the one centaur who was able to develop enough intellect so that he could control his instinctual behavior. So if we run off in fear and react to that, we'll be reacting like the other centaurs did, out of this animalistic behavior that literally usually would turn into a bloodbath with them mythologically. So, Chiron is like asking us to use our intellect and mind to figure out how to overcome the fear that a situation like this, both on personal and collective levels, can manifest if we allow it to. So this is just a really good example of how transits and the aspects and the transits, the time that that's happening, can really take a story and hand it off and keep it going from one thing to another. So this is like really important part of what's going on with that transit and showing how things like that can manifest. All right, I spent a lot of time on that already. Still haven't even talked about this week. So Mercury, our tricky friend, now done with his retrograde period, thankfully, goes back into Pisces on Monday. And as I've said many times before, Mercury in Pisces is the weakest sign for Mercury to traditionally be in. So we're still kind of in a shadow period of the retrograde and back into a time of Pisces energy really watering down the normal way that the intellect can function in Pisces with Mercury in Pisces. So basically, during the whole time that Mercury was retrograde in Pisces and the 2 or 3 weeks before that, when it was in Pisces and slowing down to go retrograde, was the time of a lot of the denial of the current administration over coronavirus, like a lot of disinformation, misinformation, possibly outright deception or lying. So that is all examples of Mercury in Pisces doing negative things. That's what Mercury in Pisces will do when it's on the negative energy side. The positive energy side of Mercury in Pisces is a very rich imagination, being able to create art with words like music, poetry, imaginative writing, things like that. But the mind does not function in its normal intellectual, logical way and draw conclusions that way. It is in an imaginary world of fantasy, daydreaming, idealism when it's in Pisces. So on a bigger level, the next couple of weeks or so, a lot of the information we're getting, once again, really can't be trusted on face value or physical reality value. A lot of it may be just somebody's fantasy or outright deception or mis or disinformation. So that energy will continue. And once again, you can see, like using coronavirus, how this can be part of the story of this situation. But Mercury in Pisces is operating across all situations like that, both individually and collectively. So that's happening on Monday. There's a big shift on Thursday, too. It's the spring equinox. The sun enters Aries in the tropical zodiac. And so this is a time when the individual energy starts to take over again. It comes out of the last 6 signs of the zodiac and goes towards the first 6 signs, which are more relating to the individual over the collective. And Aries, the sun in Aries is very strong. It's exalted in Aries. So it's basically the second strongest sign that the sun can be in. The sun in Aries is very confident and assured and knows where it wants to go, to the point of its own detriment, where it shuts down input from others and can actually get quite arrogant over a period of time, stubborn, impatient with others, feeling like, fine, I'll just go out and do this by myself if I have to, which is most likely what I'll have to do. Very energetic, very physical, very competitive, athletic, adventuresome, easily bored. All those traits of Aries. But like I said, the biggest danger with Aries is to think that you're so hell-bent on the way you see things that you shut down all other input. And that's to your own detriment, because then you miss things that are important to you. The universe is always reacting to you through other people, through other things, through circumstances. So if you're so streamlined headstrong, Aries, headstrong, then you're going to miss some of the things that are important. So a lot of you to watch out for aggressive behavior, impulsive actions that get us into accidents, things like that. But at the same time, incredible amount of courage, and just energy to push through things. So Aries energy will be starting up strongly on Thursday, and I will do my quarterly report of the next 3 months for the United States outlook politically, socially, based on the equinox chart. And I'll try to get that done on Thursday or Friday so we can look at maybe what's going on politically the next 3 months in the United States. Anyway, so that's a big shift too. And then one of the things that's kind of interesting, we were talking about how things connect. So Mars is in Capricorn, and remember, we have Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto all lined up in Capricorn, and Mars is slowly catching up to them. So Mars can be a troublemaker for sure. He's definitely the lesser malefic, and there's a reason for that because he can cause trouble. And this is his time of the year too. And when the sun goes into Aries, Mars and Aries rule. Mars is ruled by Aries, and I mean Aries is ruled by Mars, and so Mars energy is very strong this time of the year, and that's why he also relates to agriculture, because you see a lot of the agricultural practices, especially in the northern hemisphere, that start to occur this time of the year. So anyway, Mars is going to conjunct Jupiter on Friday this week, and when I think of Mars being can be a troublemaker, and Mars in illnesses can drive temperatures up, can get the blood boiling and things. So when we think about how transits hand off to one another, Mars conjunct Jupiter, Jupiter expands everything that it touches. And so this will give us, on a personal level, a tremendous amount of energy and a tremendous amount of enthusiasm to go out and get things done, to take initiative, to do things. But it can also expand anything that's going on. So if we go back to our story again, and using the coronavirus, what we can most likely expect this week is a large expansion in the cases of the coronavirus. Now we'll see what happens, but we have these stories, and that Mars Jupiter is just exponential expansion of energy. It would be a really good way to just give that a one-liner, and then you can put that right into your own life. So this is a good week to get down and get into projects, initiate projects. You'll have a lot of energy and enthusiasm for them. Okay, and then the other huge shift, which I talked about in the monthly too, is Saturn is going to be going into Aquarius on Saturday. Now remember, come July 2nd, it's going to go back to Capricorn. It is going to go retrograde. I think it's May 11th, if I remember right, somewhere in the middle of May. And it'll be only 2 degrees into Aquarius at that point, and then it's going to slide back by July 2nd into Capricorn again. And then late in the year, we'll go into Aquarius for good, and early next January, Jupiter will catch up to it and finally do that great conjunction in Aquarius. So anyway, Saturn in Aquarius is all about wanting to improve systems, seeing how systems can be revolutionized and improved. So, this is a time where what you're discerning about the flaws in whatever systems you have in your life, you can see where there's better solutions, and you can, take action on making some of these solutions happen. The biggest danger about like Saturn in Aquarius is it starts to discount emotional and intuitive input in favor of intellect too much, and kind of get stuck or stubborn there. I mean, very strong with technology and using complex mathematics and science to resolve a lot of the problems we have. And that may be what we see in society for the next 2.5 years. We may see a lot of technological improvements to the things that are the problems in society right now. And, if we're even telling a story again, maybe this is where we see, hey, the virus showed us where we had weaknesses in our systems that we need to now improve, that we see like things have to like be improved. And it can take 2 or 3 years for large systems to start to change like that. So, I mean, when we see Saturn in Aquarius, we really just like are like really going into the higher octave of Saturn, where we don't want to throw our structure out, but we want to like repair it and make it better. And so that's it's really a time to, get your ideals into your structures and your systems to improve them. And we'll continue to watch the Saturn in Aquarius story for the next 3 years, actually. Last thing I want to mention is Sunday is a really good day again for connecting with others. Remember last week, and I said that like there's a couple amazing positive aspects to connect with others last weekend, and on Sunday we have that opportunity again. I know like that may just be like internet connections right now for a lot of us, or technological connections due to a lot of the quarantining being going on. But anyway, the Mercury sextiles Uranus and Venus sextiles Neptune that day. So basically put the two of them together and sharing a lot of great ideas with people, and just in a really relaxed, receptive state to one another's ideas, and therefore giving each other like electric stimulating connections and ideas that really get us going and get us fired up, and also have us feeling really good, appeal to our values. All right, gone on more than the 15 minutes that I try to keep these things to each week, and just really wanted to show the point of how these transits work, and how they adjust. So we have some, this Mars Jupiter definitely seems to be indicating that we have some challenges ahead with the virus expanding, and Mars will conjunct Pluto and Saturn after this. So those are going to be basically, we're going to start seeing what the true results are, what the true survival rates are. Things like that will start to reveal themselves over the next 2 weeks. And I think by the end of this month, we'll have a really good idea on how dangerous that virus really will be over the course of the months that it takes to cross the world. All right. Use the Aries energy for new beginnings. Use the Mars conjunct Jupiter for new beginnings. Be careful with the Mercury in Pisces about what you hear. Take a grain of salt with it. And start to work on improving those systems and being responsible for your own health. All right. I will likely, at the end of this week, do the quarterly U.S. political outlook based on the equinox chart, which is always a real fun thing to do, and always like amazingly accurate. It just has been such a wonderful tool in my toolbox for mundane astrology for over 20 years. All right. signing off. This is Matt Lawton. If you need any kind of astrological readings or help, my email is matthue823@gmail.com. Thank you, and please share this to anyone you would think would be interested. And until next time, namaste.